70 days, and we went to 169 like we did this year, we would have to make up a day of snow. If it snowed, we'd have to come back and make that day up somewhere.
Okay.
That's the big change.
Well, that's just what I was wanting to know.
Yeah.
That, I move that we approve the item number L.
Second.
Third. Fill those forms.
Chill, Mr. Reed. Kirkpatrick.
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. And item N is possible action to approve 15-day activity absences for 1920 school year.
Is that another one of those state mandated things?
No, 10 is what they allow, but we can approve as a board up to 15. And as much as our kids are gone with as many different activities as they're in, they hit 15.
I think that's
What happens
not
if
a
they
good
go
thing
over
that they've
15?
done.
They have to, if it's not state events and stuff, eventually they have to come to before the board and get a waiver. So far, we've avoided that.
Because I missed way more than that due to FFA and all the other activities. So
Right, this just keeps us from having to do extra reports.
okay, well, I'll go. Maybe we go ahead and approve that then.
I'll second it.
Kirkpatrick.
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item number 4 then is informational reports. A is superintendent's report.
Headed tomorrow to continuous improvement. Ms. Sheelight and Mr. Weber are already there, Ms. Bowman and Ms. Matthews are on their way or already there in Edmond, or at Oklahoma City. We'll be there for the next 2 days, finishing that up. School activities, we just finished up driver's ed, or got a few kids left to drive, so that's just about finished, and we're in summer, so.
Almost done with driver's ed.
Almost done, yeah. It's usually 2 weeks, and we had some kids going for church camp, so they gotta come back for driving.
And driver's ed being taught in school all year round.
Yeah. B then is a principal report. Which is
Yeah, I basically gave it.
Okay. Item 5 then is general discussion concerning E-rate C2 networking equipment.
We have been approved for E-rate, got everything done. We are set to get new networking equipment, it's backbone. So new switches, new fiber optic links between them all, and battery backup and surge protection for the new equipment. We'll have to, it's gonna cost us around $4,000, a little over $4,000, but it's $20,000 worth of equipment that we're getting for our $4,000. So that's pretty good, pretty good. And that Pioneer will be putting that in sometime over the summer. We're trying to work out those details right now. So I would assume it'll start getting put in mid-June, July, I mean.
The contract is up with them in July, isn't it, for Pioneer?
For Pioneer for what? For E-rate?
Yeah,
No.
no.
Because we've approved for, actually starts in July to June. We're federal makes you be ahead. So sometime in July they'll be
Those
installed.
USB ports, you had all them disconnected on this go around or next?
We tried.
Yeah.
I've been working with Bank Central on that because that was one of the goals for doing this. The main thing this will allow us to do is control the ports. So whatever plug that computer is in, we can control what that plug will be allowed to do. So a teacher system, we can allow more freedom. A student system, we can bottleneck down. We can control some of those things.
Session minutes, how the damn thing shut?
But to close the USB ports, we have that option, but it creates some other issues that we haven't found a workaround yet with Bank Central. We are looking at it, because I want to shut them off because of kids bringing in jewels, bringing in baked devices, things like that. Shut them down, they can't charge anything, they're off, you know. That's my goal for it, but when asked Bank Central, it can't be done just yet. We've got some other issues.
Yeah.
All right, that's it on that.
Yes, sir.
Item B then is discussion and possible action concerning updating child nutrition procurement plan and protest procedures.
This is part of our, every year we've got to do these part of child nutrition. So these are new youth junior board documents. How we'll procure food, how we'll go buy it. A lot of it really doesn't pertain to us at the moment because we're with US Foods on that Campus Smart bidding.
Program, right.
But if we're ever to get off of that, we have to have this in place. And even though we're with them, they still check how we go procure
So
food.
do we have it in place?
No, that's
The
what this
backup
is.
plan is that's basically what we're talking about?
Basically, and it still gets checked no matter what, whether we're with US Foods or not. Child Nutrition looks at it. It's a federal requirement.
And protest procedures for who?
Vendors, they
Vendors.
didn't like how we bid food or how we went around about doing it. Here's the procedures to protest the outcome.
Okay, and we do have that. set
That's
up.
what this is doing.
We don't have it set up.
Not at the moment,
Oh,
no.
okay.
This will put us
Okay,
into compliance.
Get her done.
You make a motion then?
So, we didn't make a motion on A, did we?
We didn't have
Do
to.
what?
that
It was
was-
just
Oh, okay.
discussion.
Well, I'll make the motion, we go ahead and approve this, get started on that.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item C is discussion and possible action to continue the contract with OSAG for workers' compensation insurance.
This one,
Like those are the people we were already using?
they are, but I'm gonna ask you to table it for tonight. It's for next year. I got my bid in, it was over $3,000 higher than last year. I called, I got a new quote today from them, but since they did that, never really kind of called and said, hey, we're having to up it and gave me any kind of explanation. I've already started the process to get another bid from another company, so.
Anybody get hurt this year?
No. So it was mainly increased because the teacher pay raise increased payroll, so then workman's comp has to increase the rates. So I've asked for another company to give me a bid. I haven't received it yet. We should have it by next board meeting.
You want to table
2
it?
weeks. So I asked you to table it. Is that all right?
Make a motion?
We'll table item C. We don't need to make a motion to do that, do we?
Yes,
Second.
this tabling's formal.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Morris.
Yes. Item D is discussion and possible action concerning updated strategic plan.
Obviously with the bond not passing, we're kind of retooling. So the strategic plan has updated. One of the things that you'll see in the yellow spots, things that were changed. One item I'm looking at doing out of local funds is try to use building fund to go ahead and modernize the weight room. Trying to get bids right now for that. I wanted to get you guys' opinion if y'all wanted to go ahead and work on, that's something David could do this summer with the inmates.
Yeah.
Re-side it, fix the doors, put some windows in.
The old band room there.
Correct, the current weight room, paint it inside, make it not look like such an eyesore, since we may have to keep it a little longer. Another one, capital repair concrete, per structural engineers recommendation, I did get that. A company out of Tulsa gave me a bid for around 10 grand. We could do that out of local funds, but we really couldn't do both. We don't have enough in the building fund to do, it could be either or.
What concrete?
On the cellar,
Oh, okay.
to repair the roof of that. They repair it like they've been going around the state repairing bridges, the
Yeah.
underneath concrete. It's basically the same thing, just upside down. And then we would seal it with something. And then, well, that's already in the process. Yeah, so that's basically the biggest update on there that I kind of need to know what direction y'all would like to go.
Let's see the weight room.
Weight room.
Yeah. I like the weight
Yeah.
room.
Okay.
Okay, weight room.
It definitely needs new siding.
Right. Okay, I'll get to working on bids on that and see what that will come in, and I'll have it for you next board meeting.
And that 10,000 to fix the storm cellar, are they knocking it out, they're recovering it, sealing it, what are they doing?
Fixing it like a bridge. That's all they could explain to me. It's repairing the concrete on the top. That
They're
basically,
not knocking out, replacing, they're just,
right, just repairing the top layer
that's 10,000.
roughly. It's a little less than 10.
Quite a bit
I say
of
waiver.
work, labor.
Huh?
I say do weight room.
I just needed to know a direction on either. We can't do both, we need to do one or the other. So I'll have something for us next board meeting, in 2 weeks.
On the weight room, about the cost.
Yeah, we'll try to get
So
something.
we need to put that in a motion.
Do we,
Not really, it was just a discussion on this one, go ahead.
Let's say past possible actions.
I don't know what action would be, other
Well-
than to approve the updated
Yeah.
plan. I mean, I don't,
Kind of what I was thinking.
it's more of an informational item, I always put that in.
what I have to ask about the weight room is, besides fixing the inside, what about getting some new equipment in there? Would there be enough for us to do anything?
I can't use building fund for that. I have to use general fund.
Okay.
But it is on the want list, it's high up on the want list. I keep watching
Northwestern and,
Facebook, I keep watching anything, if I find something that will actually be affordable and we could use that won't hurt our kids, then it'll get bought. I'm gonna use an activity fund.
Pretty much hit those with the house in the room.
yeah. Yeah.
But
You
it's-
say you
it's
take
a-
it down to the activity fund or the?
Yeah, I've got an admin activity account that has some excess this year, so that's what it's kind of earmarked for, and to cover athletics if there's something that comes up that they can't cover.
Good.
Because they've depleted their account without having the elementary tournament this year. They're gonna need some startup money next year. But that'll be next month when you'll get to
Okay.
reallocate some funds. Or not next month, next meeting.
Good.
Anything else?
Not that I know of. So, do we need to make a motion there or no?
I don't
Just-
think so. It's just
Okay.
it's just a plan that's continuously updating.
Okay.
I mean, unless you want to make a plan.
Well, our decision on the plan, will that be in the notes?
You'll get to make a decision in 2 weeks, once you have bids in. Do y'all want to
Oh, okay,
go forward
okay.
with this or not?
I
I
got
wouldn't
you.
just jump into
I
it and
got
do
you.
it.
Okay, then we'll move on to item E, which is discussion concerning the option to call a bond proposal for September 10th, 2019.
To retool, obviously, some of the things I've heard at this point is to remove the ag building. That's about a $400,000 project. I got back from Jordan today that there is no other legislation or no other case to give us clear guidance other than the Sharon Mutual suit of what would be a substantial change to rerun it this quickly. One of the items is to split the projects into different bond questions. It will cost us more to run it because there's more questions, there's more fees, it will cost us more on that to run it that way. But that is our option if we wanted to.
But taking
Divide
that off the bond completely and just running without that is not a significant enough change?
And that's the answer I got from Jordan today.
That is not.
That is not.
So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take the ballot now and have,
3 questions.
yes, we do the 4-year, yes, we do gym floor, yes, we do this.
And
Wait a
you pay
minute.
a lot more in fees. Something like, sort of, we'll package it into
Group.
different groups.
That does not make any sense at all.
Cutting 30%.
Yeah, cutting 30% off is not a significant change. Or making it, so what are we asking then? When we ask this, do you want to do this one or this with the building? Or, do you understand what I'm saying?
The stages. And what?
That's what I'm saying, there's not real clear legislation on it,
Legislation, or is this what we have to do?
as far, I'm sorry.
Are we talking about legislation, or is this what we have to do to get the bond built?
Both.
Based on the legislation.
The
it's not clear.
legislation is why we have to make a substantial change. What a substantial change is not real clear, other than the one lawsuit with Sharon Mutual Schools that the judge said that it was invalid because they were basically, harassing the voter was the term used, by asking too earlier than 6 months.
But there's not a limit to when you can,
6 months if you don't change it, to have a
If you don't
substantial
change
change.
it.
Yeah, you can run the exact same bond again at 6 months.
I'm kind of saying that, $400,000 to me would be a
That's a pretty significant change. I mean,
That's what I asked too, so that was the exact information I
We're
got
gonna
today.
wait 6 months and just.
I don't think so. I think if we wait 6 months,
So
we're still
that's-
gonna be asking them the same thing, and I think the biggest problem with our bond this time is, in my opinion, is I think the ag building is the one thing I've heard concerns about. That's the one thing. Everything else, everybody's happy with. But, so how do we change that with that? I mean, how's it gonna cost? How much more money are we talking? And if we change it, if you have to ask 2 questions, what are we asking? Do we do bond, okay, is yes to put everything the same as we did, except for the ag building, and then the next one is the exact same bond again? Is that a significant change?
I don't know. I don't have that answer.
So in 2 weeks, you can have us, for stuff from Jordan B and K, on what they suggest?
That's the plan.
Okay, so
I
we
got that
just
today.
table this and we all think about it?
That's kind of what I needed to know.
Okay.
Here's the options, what do y'all want to do next?
Well, I
You do
would-
have in your board packet, by the way, you have a sheet that kind of looks like, it's right after strategic plan. Looks like this, kind of blue, and that tells you when we have to call the bond by, have the resolution approved by the board to the county office to get it on the ballot, and when it would run, so.
So next week, or 2 weeks now, we're in the right time frame.
2 weeks from now, you would have it approved before the July 11th meeting, which would be a September 10 ballot. And August 8th,
So the answer is yes?
yes,
Okay.
August 8th would get it on October 8th,
Well, I would say find out exactly what we have to do, because I mean, there was a lot of people too didn't vote this time. And I think,
Right.
I think they were just kind of set back like, well, it'll pass us for the school, and then there just was a lot of people didn't vote, so. But
All right.
we'll find out, and let's get moving on
Okay.
this.
We'll have it on the next board.
Y'all agree with that?
Yes. Item 6 then is finance, presentation, discussion of fiscal year 2020 anticipated budget.
I will be as quick and clear as I can. I'd ask you to flip into your documents, because I've got a bunch of them for you to go through, but I'll try to be clear.
It's after the statutory election.
Yes. It starts with the yellow and orange kind of looking, or not yellow, pink and orange. Sorry. And I'm not colorblind. Okay, this is a sheet I keep every single month. I update it, keep going. Let Phil get there.
and maybe I should start at the back.
Yeah, well, it's right before that spreadsheet. Keep going. Keep going. A little more, one more.
2017,
There you go.
18.
Yeah, I didn't change the date on it. I just didn't change the header, but that is correct. It's current. It just didn't change the header on it. Sorry. So right now, I look at 3 different things all month long. I make projections of what revenue will come in, what has come in, and it's all based upon our estimate needs. So you see the general fund, if we spent every bit of our estimate need, that's what our general fund would be, which is, in most schools, is a good indication of where you're gonna be, because you don't have a huge carryover, or you don't carry a big, keep a big carryover. If we spend exactly what we spent the year before, expenditure-wise, that would be our carryover, kind of gives you that base where you were. And then where we actually are, the third line, so we're at 1.723, and that gives us estimated carryover of 573,000. And that's down 307,000 from the last year. And you can see building fund there, same kind of thing. Estimate around 117,000, which is down 72,000. And then, child nutrition, 38,000, which will give us 2,300, down 4,000. But child nutrition, you can't carry over more than 3 months. You get a penalty for that. That's better. So that's the first thing to kind of big overview. Look, any questions on that?
And child nutrition during the summer months, do we still feed the kids?
No. We checked with our students and no one didn't have any interest. Because we could receive some extra funding for that, for doing it. No one expressed interest.
Nasty or everybody hungry?
Just no one wants to come up. So I'm looking for my notes. I'll make this quicker. Okay. If you, no questions on that, flip to the next page. This is another higher level view, if you will, of where we currently are. Expense and payroll trend. So this goes multiple years. Your appropriation, remember, has your carryover in it. So you can see our appropriation has gone up and down, but I'm projecting next year's appropriation to be considerably less, by about 240,000, which corresponds to our carryover draw, roughly. It's not exact, but that's a good base guess, and you'll see where I get that number in a minute. You can see, one thing I wanted to draw a note to is look at your appropriation versus your revenue, the top two columns. The revenue has continued to drop. That's money we actually receive, new monies, every year. No, not new, but you understand me. So that is dropping every year. But our appropriation hadn't changed, because if you look at your carryover, it remained relatively steady or up, which kind of masked that we were losing revenue. That's one of the reasons I put this together, so you can see the global. Multiple reasons why our revenue is dropping. Our ad valorem is actually dropping. Where some of the tax protests have hit us. We're in the third year, getting ready to be fourth year with DCP. That is set to go to court if they don't resolve next week, which it's not expected. They haven't resolved anybody else. They go to court. That is scheduled for May of 2020. When they protest, the money that they should have paid in taxes gets set into an escrow account. We don't receive it. They don't get to keep it. It sits there and earns interest, depending upon the outcome of
Funny, my ad valorem taxes keep going up.
Depending upon what happens out of that protest.
How long can they protest it? You said they're going on 4 years.
Until it gets resolved in the court. This has been brought to the attention of our representatives, and I know for a fact Senator Murdoch has already been to our county assessor's office looking at options, because he wants to run some kind of bill next year to get this junk to stop of some way. Thankfully, we don't have wind. It's worse with wind energy right now. But thankfully, we don't have wind. Because some of those schools are millions of dollars being held up, and they're not getting it at the school. So that's a big chunk of why we're losing revenue. So whenever it gets resolved and however it gets resolved, there'll be a payment made. We don't have any clue, so you really can't bank on it until it happens. So we've got to kind of guard against it. Even though we know it will be coming, we need to protect ourselves.
Would that be a balloon payment, just one payment, or would they
Yes.
stretch it out over?
It'd be one big payment. The way I understand it. I've never
They could, Doc,
received it.
I mean, it's been several years, but when I first got on the board, we got paid from, I can't remember what company it was, but it was like a 6-year protest, and then they ended up paying a third of what their original
Very
tax
common.
filing was.
Very common. I
So-
think the one that got resolved this year with BCE Mob went from, we were supposed to receive somewhere around 70,000, and we actually received 15.
Whoa.
That big of a swing.
Oh, yeah.
So, from what I've been told, that one was actually true. They didn't have the correct maps, and they didn't have some of the correct stuff. So it actually needed to be protested, from what I understand. But, I mean, that's why we have these in place. We have to be careful. You can see our payroll has increased. We kind of understood that when we made the decision to bring a full-time superintendent, full-time principal, librarian, added a coach, added music, we made that decision on purpose. We didn't expect a teacher pay raise to come in the middle of that. That cost us nearly $100,000. We didn't expect a lot of things, so now we've got to make some changes. At the moment, I've got a recommendation as far as payroll, to cut some payroll expenses down. And the actual expenses, you'll have another spreadsheet, multi-pages after this one. I'm not gonna bore you to go through it, but I kinda want you to see what I'm thinking. I'm just making reference to this one, so flip past the next one that shows budgeted, and it's kinda stapled together, it all looks nice, but then you'll see one with green and yellow. So flip one more session. I think you had this in your board pack. It's gonna grow. Patricia worked most of the day trying to get an updated version for me. This is how I'm looking to create a budget of how are we going to spend our money. Since we're trying to cut expenses and not have to touch people, this will be how, this is a work in progress is what I want you to see. You'll have something more definite next board meeting of this is what we spent this year, this is where we're cutting, this is how we're doing what in expenses. But overall, you're only looking at $300,000 of expenses, and most of that's electric and gas and lighting, stuff like that. And then, flip back a page. I want you to, we've got a unique thing happening this year with the increased spending. This is state allocated, local revenue, and federal programs. So this is basically what we're going to get in revenue-wise. So you have this year's and then a projected next year's on the second page. They are exactly the same looking, it's just at the top they have estimated or actual. This year, 1.33 was our what we started the year budget with. We've collected 1.39, I think, 36. I have to go look right now to exactly. We should over collect because we make a budget based upon 90% of what we received last year, so we should collect over that. So we are over it, but not very much. Next year, I'm estimating a budget of 1.4, but that's deceiving, and that's why I provided this one to you. I wanted you to see where it came from. If you flip on the back page of that one where it says federal programs 2019-2020, there's a new line item here that wasn't in our budget before. Project 515, school improvement. This is the partnership we've joined with the state for the continuous improvement model. That's where this new funds is. We're going to have 50,000 in additional funds next year. We're going to carry over some from this year that we just couldn't spend 25,000 before the end of this month. So we'll carry it over next year. That's what's increasing this budget. That's the primary thing that's increasing it. We've actually lost in state revenue. We'll lose alternative education, which was $5,000 in our budget this year. They changed the law, so we don't expect to receive that this year. We will lose, we might gain some Reading Sufficiency Act money. Not gain, but we might get some. Our elementary teachers have done such a great job of actually getting our kids to reading on level that we won't have as much reading sufficiency money now because we're doing the right things. They take that money away.
So they punish you for doing the right thing.
Kind of. It seems that way. And they have done a phenomenal job with our kids on level. I've been extremely impressed with the work they put in. We expect career tech budgets to go up. That's kind of what we've heard at the moment. We might even have a chance to get our fax program funded, which it's not right now. We won't know that. I was hoping to have that by now. They think they might have it middle of June, but I don't hold my breath. If we know by July, I'll feel fortunate that we're going to add it. And then I've made some adjustments in the local revenue to it's pretty much the same, but we really won't know until the end of this month where exactly we fall. There was an odd one, we're under collecting in gross production, our oil and gas. And I've asked why, and I got an odd response that when the state increased the percentage of tax on oil and gas to 7%, it actually didn't change our percentage of the collection. It just added 5% to the state's portion, not the local. That's what I got told today. So I'm asking for more clarity on that because I hadn't heard that before. So I'm trying to find out why we keep decreasing in gross production and the state's increasing in gross
For
production.
state education, and they're keeping it for themselves, yeah.
So, I don't know. So maybe that's why the extra money is in the formula now, because it came out of gross production since it's over collecting this year. So, I guess the takeaway. There's a lot of information, and I love going over any of it if you have questions. We have some decisions to make. We can't keep operating the way we are. We've got to make some cuts. First priority is get a bond pass. Get a bond pass that takes away the lease purchase payments. So that would free up about $75,000, $80,000 in the budget. That's a teaching position. That frees that up immediately. As soon as that got passed and paid off, we have that position available. We've got a staff resigning in just a moment. I recommend obviously accepting that resignation and not replacing the position. So absorb any position that comes open. First step, absorb anything that comes open. Roughly that would save about $110,000 right now. Look at the pay raise that's now this year is optional for our district. There's some confusion at the state level at the moment right now because the way they word it is the legislature's intent was for all teachers, teaching staff to get an average of $12.20 pay raise. But they put a caveat in there except for schools off the formula. So what they say now is, well, we think you should do it. That's our intent, but we didn't make it law. So I've asked some questions. I need to talk with the State Department of Ed to make sure how that's going to be interpreted before we take action on what we're going to do on that. But that's about $20,000 without the burdens added to it. So add 25% of burdens, what it actually costs the district for it. So things like what you just saw, the workman's comp insurance will go up, things like that. That person at the State Department won't be back in until right before our next meeting, so I don't know if I'll get a call back. The person that will actually know that answer. She's gone until at least the 20th at this moment, because I've already tried to contact her. So, eliminate any extra duty stipends that we can. That's another option. I've already eliminated the outside special education director that we had taking care of our special ed stuff. We'll have to test it inside. That's a savings of 11 grand right there. And I'll keep going through that other very large spreadsheet of expenditures. What else can we cut? Looking for anything. So that's some ideas. The goal is to maintain a $500,000 to $600,000 carryover. So get our expenses and everything down to that round number. And the reason where that number comes from, if you don't remember, we spend around 100 to 110 a month in expenses. So we could operate our district as normal without changing anything for 6 months and receive 0 penny, nothing in. Obviously we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't keep spending with nothing coming in. We'd make drastic changes, but we would at least have that option to give ourselves 6 months to get to December to see what the big chunk comes in of collections if everything just went horrible. That's why I came up with this $500,000, $600,000 number. And that's the goal I'm shooting for. Any questions?
Oh, man.
Alright. Item 7 is building. A, discussion concerning summer maintenance projects.
Okay, that's right after where we just were with all those spreadsheets and boring stuff. Obviously, this has kind of been pared down quite a bit. Mr. Davies in the middle of finishing up the fencing between the ag building, gym, to finish our outside perimeter fence for the playground area. He's got, I don't know exactly where he finished up today, he was welding on it today. So that's about finished. I want to go ahead and get an electrician in here and start replacing some of our bathroom light switches to the motion sensors. I don't know what that's going to entail cost-wise, but if light's not burning when no one's in there, and it comes on when you walk in, kind of like we did the front 2 bathrooms at the gym, that would save a few pennies. It would eventually make us money back on it.
I think all that entails is wiring in that sensor.
Putting in a switch and putting in the sensor, you're exactly right. It's fairly simple. I've started seeking prices on some LEDs ourselves that we could just do a bulb replacement without having to change anything, so we can just, it's like changing a bulb. So they're about $7-8 a piece.
You still have to wire around the ballast.
Not this version. That's there's 2 versions. I didn't know that until I started looking. There are 2 versions. One that you don't have to go around, and one you do. The round the ballast, going around the ballast is cheaper. But there's a question I've asked, and I haven't got an answer back if we're allowed to do that or not. I don't see why we couldn't, but I don't know for sure if we can be unlicensed to do that. I've asked that question. I haven't got it back. So that's the 2 options. Look at places, high traffic areas, not replace exactly everything, but something like the cafeteria. It's on pretty much all day, every day. All of those lights are on. So replace those. We'd see a cost savings there. Replace the offices, we'd see a soft K. Those lights are on all day long. That would be a soft cost savings. Maybe the library, because they're big buildings, but I think we're getting too expensive at that point. So I looked at mine as the office and the cafeteria would be the first 2 priorities, or this, and the office, or this and the cafeteria. We just have to kind of get some, what do we want to do, count some numbers and see what it's going to cost. So that, pretty much everything else is fairly, stuff that was on the list from last year still. Is there anything that I want to add to it or have looked at this summer?
Can we do anything on the handrails at the gym?
We can. What do you, I mean, if y'all want that to be on the list, we can look at that.
It is on the list.
Still on.
Jim, yeah, it's still on from last year.
Yeah. Did the water line not get fixed at the football field out there for the, where'd I see that at?
Yeah, install the ag field,
Yeah.
just to get water to the ag building. Not ag building, ag field, so
Yeah.
tap into our well.
Yeah.
Trench a line over so that the animals can be fed from our well,
Yeah, instead
or
of-
watered from our well, rather than paying the city for water.
Right.
That's the goal there.
Oh, okay.
Maybe
Something
more
we could do.
vehicles and animals and all that out using that well too.
Yeah,
So that could be a good savings,
yeah.
minimal cost. That's my thinking.
What's that one, change fire pro volume to 3?
All of these strobes here have 3 settings. That's to put them on the lowest setting, and it's actually been done. I've gotten it
It's
done.
already done?
Yeah, I already got it done. Yeah, it's extremely loud because we have twice as many horns and strobes as we're actually required to have. So it's extremely loud. It hurts your ears. So now they're on the lowest setting they can possibly be, and we can't disconnect them. We're not allowed to because it's been approved by the fire marshal. So has to stay.
I don't know.
So everything on there fine, just keep working on it?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, item 8 then is personnel. A is discussion of possible action concerning superintendent travel.
It's summer. I do plan to take a couple of vacation days the rest of this week after I get done with CSI, before the wife gets too pregnant. 6 weeks away and we'll have a baby. So,
Again?
yes, again. And yes, I know what causes it.
Water.
So take 2 days off there, and I've got a doctor's appointment on the 17th. That's kind of why we're combining it all together. So be back in the office there, and it's just kind of normal summer.
Just to approve that?
Please.
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve that.
Second.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes. Item B then is a proposed executive session to discuss the employment of those listed on Appendix D in accordance with the provision of Oklahoma Statute 25, Section 307B1. I'll make a motion. We'll go into executive session at 7:45.
Second.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes. Acknowledgement of the board's return to open session at 8:23.
Let's vote.
There's no,
Yeah.
it's just,
Executive session compliance announcements. The only thing discussed were in the.
teachers listed.
Yeah, the teachers deal, no votes taken. Item C then is discussion of possible action to accept the resignation of Scott Rankin.
He's accepted a position in another school.
I move we go ahead and accept it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes. Item D then is discussion of possible action to reconsider previous board action concerning the employment of those listed on Appendix D. And
Take no action.
make that, yeah, we'll take no action on item D. And item E is discussion of possible action concerning family and consumer science stipend for Darcy Emmel.
Recommend a $1,000 stipend for half a program.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Wallace.
Yes. Item number 9 then is new business.
I don't know. Who said that? I'm sorry.
Kirkpatrick.
You got the sign?
There's lots to sign.
Lots to sign. What is today?
Right.
6th?
That's nice.
Is it the 10th?
10.
Yeah, Tim.
Now I'm day behind.
That's not all.
It should be, all I have is this. So it should be something else.
Some of the consent agenda stuff.
Bill Johnson has your name on it
Okay.
for signing.
I thought,
OSAG is no action.
okay. I just thought it was more.
Let me see.
I should. Member, does that need to be you or a board member for OSMART?
Need to print or sign? What is today, 10th?
10th.
I don't want to sign it.
Yeah.
board president.
Yes.
Chief mechanic.
You could call that master mechanic.
Yeah. That it?
He owns the place, that makes him the chief mechanic.
Item number 11 is to adjourn. I'll make the motion, we adjourn at 8:27.
Second?
Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Yes.